Hi everyone, my name is Allison. I am an alcoholic. I hate speaking. I love being of service to AA, but the shit right here, like I sign up for speaking commitments and I get there and immediately I'm like, why? Why did I do this to myself? So I pray before I speak. I ask God to speak through me, just to let me help one person in this room take my ego out of it. It's not about my story or making you laugh. It's about helping the next sick and suffering. So if you like my story, you're welcome. And if you don't, blame God and write about it on your fourth step. It won't be the first fourth step and not the last one that I'm going to make. So, my sobriety date is August 24th, 2015. I was 27 when I got sober. I didn't want to get sober. I certainly didn't want the help of Alcoholics Anonymous, but my scorecards are at 0. And I remember meeting my sponsor when I had probably about 2 or 3 weeks sober. And she said to me, do 90 meetings in 90 days, call me every day and don't date for a year. And I was like, no, I go to hot yoga every day. So I will go to meetings intermittently when it works for my schedule. I'm a millennial, so I text, I don't call. And I have a drinking problem, not a dating problem. So that doesn't apply to me. Turns out I have both of those problems, still kind of working on them. But I walked out of that meeting. She wouldn't co-sign my bullshit. She was kind of like, this is it. Either you do these things or you find a different sponsor, but like, this is the game I play. So I immediately walked out of that meeting and I started drafting the text of thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to do this on my own. And something inside of me said, give this program a chance. And when it fails, because it's going to, come up with a plan B. So I deleted that text. I deleted my Tinder profile. I committed to the 90 meetings in 90 days, and I started on this journey in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I have to say, Alcoholics Anonymous is the best thing that's ever happened to my life. It's not always easier, like when you get sober, you're going to weather some shit. I've had friends die in this program. I've lost my job in sobriety. My father got really sick in sobriety. We were talking about it in a meeting I chaired tonight where it's like, I did not sign up for this. There were times that I said to God, can I just get a fucking break? This isn't what I thought it was going to be like on day one. But on the other side of the spectrum, there's a lot of things that I didn't think I was going to get in sobriety, like happiness, peace and contentment. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I just wanted to not drink, and not feel pain. And I just thought, like, I remember walking down the steps to my home group and being like, this is what I'm destined to for the rest of my life. Basements, boredom, and boomers. Like, that's it. And what I got out of it instead is a life beyond my wildest dreams. I have traveled to 48 of the 50 states in the last 6.5 years, and I'm hitting Alaska and Hawaii this year. So I'm going to do all of them. And then I'm going to, conquer the continents. I bought a car and paid off a car in sobriety. I have my own apartment in sobriety. And like, I didn't think that those things were possible. And yeah, there's like cool stuff like that. But like, I learned to be complete with me. I heard a speaker say once, you are the love of your life and you are the one that you've been waiting for, and that was one of the greatest lessons I ever learned. I'm okay with me. And doing that year of no dating, I was pissed at the time, but I remember having 4 months sober and saying to myself, I just want to do something that makes me happy. That isn't AA. Like a night to myself. And all I could come up with that made me happy was sex and alcohol. And those things don't make me happy. They're quick fixes and vices that usually make me feel shittier than I did before I picked them up. And in that moment, I realized, how can anyone make me happy if I don't even know what makes me happy? How can I begin to make other people happy in life if I can't make myself happy first? It's a catch-22. So my year of no dating was me dating myself. And I realized that I really love running and working out, and I was dirt poor. So I got really good at giving myself manicures and pedicures. And I love bubble baths and binge watching really cheesy Hallmark movies with the same plot line while eating Chinese food on a Sunday afternoon. Like, that is just beautiful to me now. I travel a lot. I do a lot of solo road trips around the country. I've been to Aruba and Ireland by myself. I got left at the, everyone's here is talking about YPA. I got sober in YPA. I was the outreach chair for ECPA. I traveled, I think it was something like 50,000 miles in 6 months for our convention. And I went to like 18 different states in that timeline. And I went from Necky Paw to Monkey Paw. So from the Northeast conference to the Montreal conference. And the guy I was driving with failed to tell me he had an assault of the police officer charge. And he couldn't cross the border and I could. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going. And I just remember the border security being like, you're in desolate Canada. Like there's no bus stop, there's no hotel, there's no like restaurant for you to go to. What are you going to do? And I was like, don't worry, Jonathan from Toronto knows somebody in Montreal and they're going to come pick me up. And they're like, just go. And my friend and I from AA, we sat at duty free for 4 hours while Jonathan from Toronto figured out a friend in Montreal to come pick us up, and nobody knew for many hours what happened to us, but it was like the children of the corn where we were, but it worked out. There are just so many times where I'm like, not today, God, I'm going to something with YPA. Like that was me. I drove in the middle of a snowstorm in an electrical car from New York City to Pittsburgh. And I lost a jacket and I was up for like 48 hours straight. So like I would go sleep in the back seat of the car. And then like after 15 minutes, my body would shock me and I would just keep driving. Like that's what I did, when I was 28 years old, and I had a blast with it. I'm not going to go too much into my war story because I am kind of rambling. And like at the end of the day, if you were broke and you were broken, your family hated you, you lost your job, you came close to losing other jobs. You were sleeping around with anyone and everyone who had a pulse, and you couldn't look in the mirror anymore without thinking to yourself, is this the person you're becoming? Because it really fucking sucks. You have a part of my story. I came from a loving family. My parents, they gave me all they could afford in life. And, yes, identify, not compare, but like I hear stories of like people and what their parents did to them growing up. And I hit the lottery. They truly just loved and cared for me. And I remember my mom, for my 2-year anniversary, she wrote me a note. I've loved you since the day you were born. There were years that you made it really hard for me to love you, but now it's easy. That's what AA has given me. My parents have the ability to just love me unconditionally again. And they don't have to worry about where I am in the middle of the night or me stealing their car, or stealing money for bills and stuff like that. We just have a happy and blissful relationship now. But my bottom came, I have a lot of not yets in my story. You guys were talking about jail and prison. I didn't know the difference between jail and prison before I came into AA. I've never done edibles before. I was never arrested. I've never been a rehab, IOP, detox. I never drank on an airplane because I'd want to smoke a cigarette. I've never done heroin, meth, or crack. There's a lot of other stuff. I've never, detoxed. I've never had the DTs before. I've never gotten in a bar fight before. Like there's a lot of other stuff that I'm missing, that I've never been homeless. But most importantly, I never relapsed. That doesn't make me less of an alcoholic. It doesn't make me a smarter alcoholic. It just means that I stopped digging, and I am capable of any and all of those things if I choose to go back out. And yes, like I said earlier, identify, not compare. But like when I hear the stories of the people who relapse, 9 times out of 10, it's the same song and dance. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped calling my sponsor. I stopped doing service. I took my will back. My character defects started to crop up on me. And lo and behold, I inevitably picked up a drink, So as long as I try to stay in the middle of AA, I have a fighting chance at staying sober at this program. I don't do AA perfectly. I'm going to be clear with that right now. Like I said, I like Hallmark movies, and when my sponsees call me in the middle of it, I don't want to hear your fucking problems. I got other things to worry about, like what's going to happen in this plot line. I already know the story too. I haven't been going to meetings as much the last couple of weeks, not because I'm against AA, just like life's been lifey and it's been busy and I've been traveling. I have 13 step in AA. I don't always listen to like what my sponsor has said, nor do I care to, but like, the one thing I've done perfectly is I haven't picked up a drink or a drug. And, I've come close to it. I went from drinking every single day to out of nowhere, just stopping, and like the jig is up. I'm an alcoholic. I love drinking, I loved getting fucked up. So if there are like 1 or 2 days out of the year that I have a burning desire, it's a pretty good fucking year. You know, I consider that a success. And like, it's a reminder to me that I'm not immune from this disease. And what's been beautiful for me is when I get to those moments, I always choose my sobriety over my pride and ego, because it's my pride and ego that says, you don't need to ask for help. You can do this on your own. I don't want people to know I'm weak. Like, I've raised my hand for burning desires with multiple years of sobriety. I've called my sponsor and been like, I'm losing my shit right now. And I once texted her being like, I'm about to drive my car into the Hudson River. Just want to let you know. She's like, how about you pause until I call you? And sure enough, she did. And like the second, like she got to the crux of my issue, it was like a breath of fresh air, like that release that we're all looking for. Now I feel better. You've solved all my problems. And I do have to say, it's when I'm not going to AA, that's when these things tend to creep up on me. You know, when my character defects crop up, like control is a big thing for me. So when I'm not getting my way, that happens. You know, I can spend money alcoholically. I can swipe right alcoholically. I can overeat, I can undereat, I can turn anything into alcoholism. And that's when I know I need to get back into the program. You know, they have this saying in Jersey City, I'm sure they have it wherever you guys are too, you know, stick with the winners. To me, winners fall down, but winners pick themselves up. You know, it doesn't take much to just get back on the beam and start going to meetings more and raise my hand to be a sponsor, do the coffee commitment at my home group. You know, that keeps me involved. I'm the Area 44 secretary, and those meetings are torture sometimes, I do have to tell you. But it's 6 hours that I'm not thinking of myself, you know, that I'm just focused on something else. You know, that's the beauty of service. It gets me out of myself, whether it's 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or 5 hours. I am involved in something. I have friends today. You know, I was talking to my mom. I got invited to 2 weddings and 1 bridal shower on the same day this year. And I'm maid of honor in one of the weddings. And I don't know, all the mail's gone. Nobody's gotten the invites. And I'm talking to my mom, like, this is bullshit. Like, moral of the story, don't look like I should stop, just try to stop making friends. You know, I need to stop being so friendly and like welcoming people in. But like, what a luxury that, and one of the weddings I'm the maid of honor in, like somebody trusts me with the most important day of their life. You know, like I was the one who ruined weddings. I was the one who got wasted and was making out with like whoever in the corner and then like having sex with some rando in like the pool at the hotel, you know, like that's normally how my life went. But like now it's, I get to show up, you know, and I get to do these things. And immediately I started doing step work when I got involved in this program. You know, step one, I wrote a letter to myself because my sponsor went to a detox or an IOP, and they had her do this letter, or like, you know, write out all the ways that your life is affected by drinking. And like, I quoted Machine Gun Kelly, Lana Del Rey, Back to the Future. And it was like this love letter to myself. And I remember thinking, I'm going to be a different person after I read this. And, nothing changed. I was the same person. I'm like, this is fucking bullshit. This program's a cult. Like, it makes no sense. And I turned to my sponsor and she was crying. And I was like, how are you crying? This is my first step. And she was like, this is just so beautiful. And I'm so proud of you. And like, I don't do well with crying. I don't have much emotion to me. I was like, you know, you should be proud of yourself because we did it on my 90th day. And I was like, I wouldn't be at this 90 days if it wasn't for you. And that made her cry more. It pissed me off more. I didn't get the like, you know, reaction or, you know, end result that I thought I was going to have, but I got a better one. And it set me up for the rest of my steps where I never had expectations. I just kind of did the work, and whatever was going to happen was going to happen. You know, step two, insanity. You know, going back to what I was saying earlier about like being on the beam in the program, if I'm not working this program, I will still go insane. You know, like I was crazy before I came into this program. I'm still crazy after I came into this program. I just have a solution, like keep me at peace now, you know? And like, if I'm doing things to the best of my ability, it's like, I wake up and I greet the sun, you know? And I am just like, don't worry, God's got everything. Yes, things are hard, but like, I'm going to get through it. But if I'm not working the program, it's like, I'm going batshit crazy. So like, that's important to me, why I stay in the center of the program so much. And my higher power at the end of the day, like, I don't know what he's setting me up for. There's a line in the back of the big book, God has everything planned. And I remember reading that in my first year. I'm like, oh, I get it now. All those years that I'm like, life is shit, God was setting me up for AA. He was giving me my story. It's the greatest possession I have today. Today, I'm not proud of my story. I'm not ashamed of my story. I own my story. And it's a direct result when working the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And you know what, like, sometimes it's so hard to like believe that things are going to work out. Like I said, I've had some rough patches in sobriety. And in those times, my prayer is always like, please give me the willingness to be willing to believe, and I forget that, like, when I've turned my life over to my higher power, I have also turned the timeline over to my higher power. I lost my job and I was like, I'll find a new one, 4 weeks, no big deal. 6 months later, I'm still looking for one. I'm like, do you not see me down here struggling, motherfucker? Like, and I forget the timeline is on God's time, not mine. My step 4, I had fun with this. I knew what the lists were going to be. I resented like 150 people. And I think The Little Mermaid and Pippi Longstockings were 2 of them. I resented NBC On Demand for telling me that the Golden Girls would be on when they weren't. I resented a lot of guys that I dated. My fears, I fear dying. I fear my parents dying. I fear relapse. I fear not being good enough in this world. And I still struggle with those things, like, because it's a disease of more. I want people to love me. I want to be good enough for this world. I don't believe in failure. Like, when I don't match up to what I want to be, like, I can go down this whirlwind. The sex list, like, I had fun with this. I knew what this list was going to be. I usually joked, some people get jailed. I got railed. That was my MO. Like, when I was drinking, it's either I am woman, hear me roar. I can have sex with anyone in this room and it's going to be you, or I'm a worthless piece of shit and I need to have sex with someone in order to be validated, to feel loved in this world. And it wasn't about the number. It was about how many of these people would I have not slept with had I not been drinking, and how many of them were I seeking validation from? And the answer was all of them. And I went over all this with my sponsor, and I sat with myself for an hour afterwards, and I wrote out my character defects and my ideals list. And, the character defects, I'll get to that in a minute, but like the ideals list, I was a little shit. I was 27 years old and I had like 98 things on my ideals list. And one of them was, you had to think I was adorable with barbecue sauce on my face, and like, I am, disclaimer, but like, it says on page 69, we mold into our ideals. What was important to 27-year-old Allison is completely different from 34-year-old Allison. Think about it. What are your top 5 ideals that are non-negotiable for? And like, I've had sponsees, and I've done this too. Someone who isn't driven or doesn't communicate the way I want to. All right, but if you're willing to make an exception on them, don't come bitching to me, because you're setting yourself up for like a relationship that's going to fail, it's like, what's the phrase? Spray painting your red flags green, like, I remember saying to my sponsor about one guy, like, I was 13 stepping him. So like, I was also really struggling at this point in my life. I remember being like, I know it's not going to work out, but I'm not done feeling enough pain yet. And she was like, you don't have to get to that point. Oh shit, there's a lot of people in this meeting. Fuck, I didn't realize that. My 6 step, my character defects list, I'm vengeful, spiteful, I lack empathy, I'm competitive, I gossip. Those are just the highlights. There's a lot more. And for me, humbly ask God to remove my character defects. It's not like I work on them. It's God's going to put me in a scenario, for instance, like, I have really bad body dysmorphia and body shaming, and like, I lack self-love in that sense. So it's like, God's going to put me in a position where it's like, I can continue to shit on myself and like go crazy being anorexic or working out a lot, or I can, like, my prayer recently has been like, just let me live in self-love, let me be at peace with who I am right now. Or like gossiping, I can either like talk shit about someone, or I can like change the conversation. 8 and 9, this was the biggest growth step for me, because it's like a pep for me now. Anytime I have to have a conversation that's uncomfortable, I say to myself, you've made an amends. You have gone to the people who have loved you and you have hurt the most and asked for forgiveness. You can have any conversation today. and like some of them were good, some of them were bad. I made an amends to my sister and she said, that's nice, but this is a bigger discussion. Like, you're a fucking bitch. And then I've gone to like my bosses who are just like so proud of me, and abortion is part of my story. And that was an amends that I made in the moment. It didn't make my list, but that was the moment, I had my spiritual awakening where I forgave myself, and it didn't matter what happened in my past. I was okay in that moment, and it just didn't matter because I knew I was starting this new path. 10, 11, and 12, I spot check myself on a daily basis. I don't have to wait till nighttime to know when I'm being a shit. 11, prayer and meditation. I pray in the shower every day, or whenever I need to, like, Hail Mary for God. I just kind of stand there. I'm like, please be with me, just like I did before this meeting. I go on a lot of road trips, and my meditation is just sitting in the woods and like looking out at nature and just thanking God, just being at peace. And I run outside. That's a big form of meditation for me. And 12, it's not just in, the rooms of AA. I try to be a good person. It's everywhere, and it's to myself as well. And just finding balance, one week I'm a miser, the next weekend it's like YOLO. I'm just going to spend everything on my credit cards, like that's the beauty of this program. I learned how to be an adult in AA, and I learned that I get to grow every single day. And where I was 6 years ago, even 2 years ago, like life is just forever changing. And the longer I stay in this program, the more of an emotional roller coaster life gets, but the greater of an adventure life gets as well. And like I said earlier, guys, like you're going to weather some shit, like I said, we were talking in the meeting, like I didn't sign up for this on day one. I didn't sign up. Like my best friend died of an overdose. I visited my dad and my sponsor in the same psych ward in the same night. I almost started a 5-car pileup driving 100 miles an hour just to get outside of myself because I wasn't working this program to the best of my ability. But like, I love me today. I'm okay with me. When everyone else was freaking out that the pandemic was happening because of the year of no day, I'm like, I'm good. I got this. I've been taking care of myself for years, and I've seen this country, and I'm okay with me. And God, I'm the luckiest fucking girl in the world. Thanks for letting me share.